Since childhood, we are taught that debt is an enemy to be avoided at all costs. Our parents warn us, never spend more than you earn, or stay away from loans. The fear of debt has become an unwritten rule of financial life, and most people follow this guideline as if it were a sacred mantra. But what if I told you that this view of debt is incomplete? What if I showed you a truth about debt that almost no one talks about but that the wealthy understand very well? Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has transformed the way millions of people see money. And one of the most thought-provoking concepts he teaches is precisely about debt. Contrary to what we've always heard, debt is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be a powerful tool for creating wealth if used the right way. The problem isn't debt itself, but rather the type of debt you take on and how you use it. Most people go into debt for consumption, credit card purchases, car loans, borrowing money to sustain a lifestyle they can't afford. These are what we call bad debts, the ones that take money out of your pocket and trap you in an endless cycle of payments. But the wealthy do things differently. They use good debt, the kind that puts money in their pockets, finances assets, and generates more wealth over time. This difference between good debt and bad debt is what separates those who are constantly in debt and struggling to pay bills from those who build wealth and achieve financial freedom. But why does no one teach us this? Why do schools, banks, and even our own parents tell us to avoid debt without explaining this crucial distinction? Throughout this guide, we're going to uncover this hidden truth about debt, understand how the wealthy use it to grow financially, and explore how you can start applying this knowledge to transform your life. Are you ready to challenge conventional wisdom and see debt from a new perspective? Then let's dive in. If you ask the average person about debt, they will probably tell you it's dangerous and should be avoided. This belief has been reinforced by decades of traditional financial advice, which teaches us to live within our means, cut expenses, and always pay our bills on time. And while this approach may seem reasonable, there's one major flaw. It doesn't lead to wealth. Robert Kiyosaki reveals that the real game of money isn't just about staying out of debt, but rather learning how to use it strategically. The modern financial system is designed to keep people working to pay off bad debts, while banks and the wealthy use good debt to build even more wealth. But how does this work in practice? Let's imagine two people, Joe and Ricardo. Joe follows traditional advice and avoids debt at all costs. He works hard, saves as much as possible, and pays for his car in full. Sounds responsible, right? Now, let's look at Ricardo. He takes out a loan to buy a property, but instead of living in it, he rents it out to generate passive income. The rent covers the mortgage payment, and he still makes a small profit. Who is in a better financial position? Joe, who has no debt but also no income-generating assets? Or Ricardo, who used debt to acquire something that puts money in his pocket? This is the key point. The wealthy understand that debt can be a lever. They don't use it to buy liabilities that drain their money, but rather to acquire assets that work for them. But why does no one teach us this? Because the system is designed to keep most people trapped in the cycle of bad debt. Banks profit from credit card interest and loans that don't generate returns for the borrower. Society encourages consumption and debt to sustain a lifestyle without teaching how to use debt wisely. The truth is, debt itself isn't the problem. The problem is how we use it. Want to learn how to turn debt into a stepping stone to financial freedom? Let's dive deeper into this concept in the next section. Now that we understand that debt itself isn't the villain, but rather how we use it, we need to dive deeper into the fundamental difference between good debt and bad debt. This concept is what separates those who are trapped by bills and high interest payments from those who build wealth and financial freedom. Bad debt is the kind you take on to buy liabilities, things that take money out of your pocket. When you finance a car that doesn't generate income, make credit card purchases in installments, or take out a loan to cover personal expenses, you are accumulating harmful debt. Why? Because these expenses don't provide a financial return and, even worse, often come with high interest rates that make the debt an increasingly heavy burden. Good debt, on the other hand, is used to acquire assets, investments that generate income and appreciate over time. Imagine taking out a loan to buy a property, but instead of living in it, you rent it out. The rent covers the mortgage payment, and you still make a monthly profit. In this case, you've used debt to create a positive cash flow. The same principle applies to businesses and investments. If an entrepreneur takes out a loan to expand their company, buy equipment, or invest in marketing to increase profits, they are using debt as a strategic tool. The borrowed money generates a return greater than the interest paid to the bank, creating a positive cycle of growth. But here's an important detail that many people overlook. Good debt is only good if it's well planned and properly managed. It's not enough to borrow money and hope the investment works out. You need to assess risks, study the market, and ensure that your cash flow is sufficient to cover the payments while still generating profit. And this is exactly where many people go wrong. They confuse smart borrowing with impulsive debt. They think they're taking on good debt, when in reality they're just putting themselves at risk. In the next section, we'll explore how the wealthy use debt strategically and how you can start applying these principles in your own life. If you take a close look at the world's true millionaires and billionaires, you'll notice an interesting pattern. Most of them use debt to grow. But unlike the majority of people, they don't take on debt to finance a luxurious lifestyle with no financial return. They do it with a very clear purpose, using other people's money to generate more money. This concept might seem strange to those who grew up hearing that the key to financial health is to live debt-free and save as much as possible. But think about it. The wealthy don't rely solely on their own money to invest. They take out loans, finance properties, and use lines of credit to expand businesses, all in a planned and strategic way. Let's take the real estate sector as an example, one of the most common ways millionaires build wealth. Imagine an investor who wants to buy a commercial building worth 2 million reals. If he had to save that amount on his own, it would take years, maybe even decades, to accumulate the money. But he does things differently. He finances 80% of the value through a bank, invests only 20% from his own pocket, and rents out the property. The rental income from tenants covers the loan payments and still generates a profit. This way, the investor acquires a valuable asset without having to put up all the capital at once. Now, compare this to someone who takes out a 50,000 reals loan to buy a luxury car. Unlike the rental property, the car doesn't generate income. On the contrary, it comes with maintenance costs, insurance, and depreciation. That's bad debt. Another classic example of how the wealthy use debt is in the business world. Many giant corporations didn't grow solely with their owners' money. They took out loans to expand operations, launch new products, and increase revenue. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, all these billionaires use financial leverage to build their empires. But here's a crucial detail. The wealthy know how to assess risk. They don't take out loans without a solid plan to generate returns. They study, analyze opportunities, and crunch the numbers before assuming debt. So how can you start applying this mindset to your own life? In the next section, we'll discuss practical strategies to turn debt from a villain into an ally on your path to financial freedom. Now that we understand how the wealthy use debt to build wealth, the big question arises: how can you apply this strategy in practice without taking unnecessary risks? After all, even good debt can become a problem if it's not well managed. The first step to using debt wisely is to think like an investor, not a consumer. Whenever you consider borrowing money, ask yourself, will this be used to buy an asset or a liability? If the answer is a liability, something that takes money out of your pocket, then you're taking on bad debt. But if it's an asset, something that generates income or appreciates in value, then it could be good debt as long as it's carefully planned. For example, if you want to invest in real estate, before financing an apartment for rental, you need to calculate its profitability. Will the rent cover the mortgage payments? Will there still be a profit? Does the area have potential for appreciation? If the answer is yes, then this is a debt that can work in your favor. Another key principle of the wealthy is using other people's money, but doing so intelligently. This means you shouldn't take out a loan just because the bank offers easy credit. The wealthy leverage financial resources to multiply their gains, but always with a solid plan in place. Let's think about a small business owner who wants to expand their business. They could take out a loan to buy more inventory or invest in advertising. But before taking on the debt, they analyze whether the demand for their product truly justifies the expansion and whether the profit will be greater than the interest paid to the bank. This way, the debt becomes a strategic investment rather than a burden. Another crucial point is having an exit plan. Good debt doesn't mean taking risks blindly. Always have a backup plan in case something goes wrong. If you finance a property, keep an emergency fund to cover months of vacancy. If you take out a loan for a business, have realistic projections of revenue and costs. The truth is, the wealthy don't avoid debt, they master it. They know how to make money work for them instead of working to pay bills. In the next section, we'll explore the most common mistakes people make with debt and how to avoid them. If debt can be a powerful tool for building wealth, why do so many people end up trapped in endless debt cycles? The answer lies in a few common mistakes that turn debt from a stepping stone to success into a financial hole that's hard to escape. The first major mistake is using debt for consumption instead of investment. Most people go into debt to buy things that don't generate financial returns: smartphones, new gadgets, vacations, expensive clothes, and financed cars. While these purchases may bring immediate gratification, in the long run, they only drain money. The result? High interest rates, endless payments, and the feeling that your salary is never enough to cover all the bills. Another fatal mistake is not calculating the impact of interest. Many people take out loans without analyzing the real cost of the debt. A 30,000 reals car loan might seem affordable when spread over 60 months. But when you add up the interest, you could end up paying twice the original price. And if that car doesn't generate income, you've just locked yourself into a long-term financial commitment with no return. Then there are those who fall into the easy credit trap. Banks and financial institutions love offering high credit card limits, overdraft protection, and pre-approved loans. But the reality is, this money isn't yours. It's a service that comes with a steep interest price. The easy access to credit tempts many people into spending beyond their means, creating a snowball effect of debt. Another common mistake is using debt without a plan for generating returns. Many people assume that taking out a loan to start a business is always a good idea, but without a solid plan, the results can be disastrous. Good debt is only truly good when there's a clear strategy to generate enough income to repay it and still make a profit. Finally, one of the biggest mistakes is neglecting financial education. Many people get into debt simply because they lack knowledge. They don't understand how compound interest works. They can't differentiate between assets and liabilities, and they don't plan their finances for the long term. The wealthy, on the other hand, study, learn about money, and make informed decisions based on knowledge, not impulse. If you want to break free from the cycle of bad debt and start using debt to your advantage, you need to shift your mindset. In the next section, we'll discuss how to develop a wealthy mindset when it comes to debt and investments. If there's one major difference between the wealthy and the middle class when it comes to money, it's their mindset. The way we think about debt determines how we use it. Either we are controlled by it, or we learn to leverage it strategically. Most people view debt with fear and aversion. They grow up hearing phrases like, "never take out loans," or "if you're in debt, get out as fast as possible." This mindset creates a negative relationship with money and prevents people from seeing the hidden opportunities in financial leverage. The wealthy, on the other hand, see debt as a tool. For them, credit isn't an enemy but an ally when used wisely. However, this perspective doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built through financial education and strategic planning. The first mindset shift you need to make is to replace the question, "How can I avoid debt?" with, "How can I use debt to build wealth?" This simple change in perspective transforms your relationship with money. Instead of running from credit, you learn to use it intelligently to acquire assets and generate passive income. Another essential point is to stop working for money and start making money work for you. When you use good debt to invest, you're putting money to work in your favor. Instead of spending years saving up for a property, you can finance it and let rental income cover the mortgage payment. Instead of waiting until you have all the capital to start a business, you can secure external investment and accelerate your growth. But this mindset only works if it comes with knowledge and discipline. Using debt incorrectly can lead to serious financial problems. That's why the wealthy don't make decisions based on intuition or impulse. They study, assess risks, run the numbers, and only take on debt when they have a clear plan for returns. Additionally, the wealthy don't fear debt, but they also aren't enslaved by it. They understand the importance of maintaining strict control over their financing, avoiding excesses, and always ensuring their cash flow remains positive. If you want to escape the cycle of bad debt and start building wealth, you need to shift your mindset. In the next section, we'll discuss practical strategies to eliminate bad debt and take the first step toward financial freedom. Now that we understand the difference between good and bad debt and how the wealthy use debt strategically, one essential question remains. What should you do if you're already trapped in bad debt? How can you break free from this cycle and start building a more solid financial future? The first step is to gain complete clarity about your debts. Many people go through life on autopilot, making payments without even knowing exactly how much they owe or how much interest they're paying. Grab a pen and paper or a digital spreadsheet and list all your debts, total amount owed, interest rates, repayment terms, and your monthly payments. This will give you a realistic picture of your financial situation. Next, prioritize your most expensive debts. High-interest debts, such as credit cards and overdrafts, should be eliminated as quickly as possible. These types of credit act like a financial drain, sucking your money away month after month. If you have multiple debts, you can use either the snowball method, starting with the smallest debts to gain motivation, or the avalanche method, focusing on the highest interest debts first to save more money in the long run. But simply paying off debt won't solve the problem if you keep repeating the same mistakes. That's why the next step is to change your relationship with money. If you got into debt due to a lack of planning, it's time to create a budget and set limits on unnecessary spending. If your debts stem from impulsive consumption, you must change your habits and learn to differentiate between wants and needs. Another powerful strategy is negotiating your debts. Many people don't realize they can contact banks and financial institutions to try to reduce interest rates, extend payment terms, or get discounts for paying off the debt in full. Often, a simple negotiation can significantly ease your financial burden. Additionally, look for ways to generate extra income to speed up your debt repayment. This could be freelance work, selling items you no longer use, or even monetizing a hobby. The goal is to direct all this additional income toward eliminating your bad debts as quickly as possible. And finally, it's crucial that you don't fall back into the same cycle. Once you've freed yourself from bad debt, start using your money wisely, invest in assets, and begin building a solid financial foundation. In the next section, we'll discuss how to make this transition, moving from bad debt to investing in wealth-generating assets. Now that we've covered how to escape bad debt, we arrive at the most exciting part: how to transform your financial life and start building wealth. And here's the big secret the wealthy understand. True financial freedom doesn't come from how much money you earn, but from how many assets you own. Assets are anything that puts money in your pocket without requiring active work. This could be a rental property, a business that operates without your direct involvement, dividend-paying stocks, or even a digital channel that generates passive income. The goal is simple: make money work for you instead of working for money. But how do you make this transition? If you've spent years dealing with bad debt, the idea of investing may seem impossible. However, the path is more accessible than it appears. The first step is to shift your mindset and create a clear financial plan. You must consciously decide that you won't return to the old cycle of debt, and that every cent you earn will be directed toward building assets. The next step is to start small. Many people believe they need large amounts of money to invest, but that's not true. Today, you can start investing in stocks, real estate funds, or even launching a small business with affordable amounts. The key is to begin, even modestly, and reinvest your profits over time. Another essential strategy is to use other people's money the right way. Now that you understand the difference between good and bad debt, you can start leveraging financial resources strategically. If a property can be financed and rented out for more than the mortgage payment, why not take advantage of that? If an investment can generate higher returns than the financing interest, why not seize the opportunity? But be careful, don't confuse this with reckless borrowing. The key to success lies in planning, research, and careful execution. The wealthy don't take on debt without a strategy. They calculate every move, assess risks, and ensure that the debt will work in their favor. If you can shift your mindset, eliminate bad debt, and start investing in assets, you'll be taking one of the most important steps toward financial freedom. But there's one final detail that many people overlook: patience and persistence. In the next section, we'll discuss how to stay disciplined and continue growing financially over time. Getting out of bad debt is just the first step. The real goal isn't just to break even, but to build wealth. The question you should be asking now is, how can I transform my financial situation from being in debt to becoming an investor? The answer lies in shifting your focus from paying bills to acquiring assets. Most people spend their entire lives trying to earn more money just to cover debts and expenses, never investing in something that could generate long-term wealth. But the wealthy do the opposite. They invest in cash-flowing assets first and only then increase their lifestyle. What are assets? Assets are investments that put money in your pocket. These can include rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, your own business, royalties from products, or any other form of passive income. The key insight of the wealthy is that they often use other people's money through good debt to acquire these assets. If you've just escaped a cycle of bad debt, the idea of taking on new debt might feel intimidating, but the key is to do it strategically and with careful planning. Unlike bad debt, which drains your income, good debt creates new cash flows. For example, instead of financing a brand new car, why not use that money as a down payment on a rental property? Instead of charging a vacation to your credit card, why not invest in a small business that generates profits, allowing you to take future vacations without debt? Another fundamental lesson is to reinvest your earnings. When an asset starts generating income, the worst thing you can do is spend it all. The wealthy always reinvest as much as possible, buying more assets, creating more income sources, and expanding their investments. The transition from debt to investment requires discipline, patience, and a new mindset. But once you start seeing money work for you instead of working to pay off debts, your perspective on wealth changes completely. In the next section, we'll talk about how to protect and multiply your wealth over time, ensuring that you never fall back into the cycle of bad debt. Getting out of bad debt and starting to invest is a huge step forward. But building real wealth isn't just about making money, it's also about protecting and growing your assets over time. Many people manage to accumulate wealth, only to lose it all due to a lack of planning and financial management. The first step to protecting your wealth is to have strict control over your cash flow. The wealthy know exactly where every penny goes and make adjustments whenever necessary. Having a well-defined budget and a financial management system prevents you from making the same mistakes that could lead you back into debt. Another essential principle is diversification. Relying on just one source of income is a major risk. That's why the wealthy invest in different assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, and passive income, ensuring that if one sector faces difficulties, they still have other sources of revenue. Additionally, asset protection is crucial. Many people overlook this, but the wealthy always have strategies to shield their wealth from crises, excessive taxes, and lawsuits. This can include anything from keeping part of their capital in protected assets, such as gold or international investments, to creating holdings and legal structures that safeguard their assets. Another common mistake that prevents people from multiplying their wealth is spending before reinvesting. Often, as soon as they start making more money, they immediately increase their lifestyle, buying more expensive cars, bigger houses, and taking luxury trips. But the wealthy do the opposite. They reinvest their profits into more assets first, and only then do they upgrade their lifestyle. Finally, the key to multiplying wealth is thinking long-term. Many people chase get-rich-quick schemes, but true millionaires build wealth consistently and sustainably. They don't fall for miracle promises and always stay focused on solid, proven strategies. Another essential principle is diversification. Relying on just one source of income is a major risk. That's why the wealthy invest in different assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, and passive income, ensuring that if one sector faces difficulties, they still have other sources of revenue. Additionally, asset protection is crucial. Many people overlook this, but the wealthy always have strategies to shield their wealth from crises, excessive taxes, and lawsuits. This can include anything from keeping part of their capital in protected assets, such as gold or international investments, to creating holdings and legal structures that safeguard their assets. Another common mistake that prevents people from multiplying their wealth is spending before reinvesting. Often, as soon as they start making more money, they immediately increase their lifestyle, buying more expensive cars, bigger houses, and taking luxury trips. But the wealthy do the opposite. They reinvest their profits into more assets first, and only then do they upgrade their lifestyle. Finally, the key to multiplying wealth is thinking long-term. Many people chase get-rich-quick schemes, but true millionaires build wealth consistently and sustainably. They don't fall for miracle promises and always stay focused on solid, proven strategies. Now that you know how to get out of debt, build wealth, and protect your assets, we've reached the most important moment: how to solidify this mindset and ensure that you never fall back into the cycle of poverty. In the next section, we'll wrap up with a practical action plan to turn this knowledge into real results. Now that you understand the truth about debt that no one tells you, it's time to turn knowledge into action. The difference between those who build wealth and those who stay stuck in the same place isn't just what they know, but what they do with that knowledge. The first step to ensuring that you never fall back into the cycle of bad debt is to develop the habit of thinking like an investor. Whenever you face a financial decision, ask yourself, will this bring me a financial return or will it trap me in another monthly payment? If you want to maintain a healthy and prosperous financial life, you need to follow 3 basic principles. Spend less than you earn and invest the difference. It sounds simple, but most people spend everything they make or even more. The wealthy do it differently. They invest first, then spend what's left. Use debt as leverage, not as a crutch. Good debt should be used to generate more money, not to sustain a lifestyle you can't afford. Before taking on any loan or financing, make sure it will serve as a stepping stone to increase your income, not as a burden that limits your choices. Always seek more financial knowledge. The game of money never stops. The rules change, the market evolves, and those who don't stay updated get left behind. Read books, take courses, follow experienced investors, and always keep learning. If you follow these principles and stay disciplined, you'll notice that your relationship with money starts to change. Debt stops being a burden and becomes a powerful tool. You break free from the cycle of scarcity and step onto the path of financial freedom. What separates the wealthy from the poor isn't luck, it's knowledge and the actions they take. Now that you know the truth about debt, the final question is, what will you do with this information? The power is in your hands. The choice between staying in the same cycle or building a life of prosperity is yours alone.